These are the best predictions for week 2 of the NFL season. In this video, I am going to be going through every single game this week, except for the Thursday night video, and giving you my week 2 NFL predictions. Now, last week, I went 8-8. Not a good first week, but I kind of give myself a mulligan because week 1 is always hard in the NFL, and now I've seen each team play. I kind of have a opinion about each team, and I think my predictions will be a lot more accurate going forward. But still, 50% ain't bad, right? I mean, 50% is like better than what I got in freshman year math class. So if you know, you know, right? Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the games. As per usual, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you are new. Also, comment down below what you think of my predictions, and if you disagree, sound off there. Let's go ahead and get into it. Starting off with the Bengals and the Ravens. I'm taking the Bengals to win this game 27-20. I really think that last week, what they did against the Browns is not indicative of how they are as a team. I think they'll be much better. I think they'll be able to move the ball. I think the monsoon that happened in Cleveland the other day really kind of messed up their mojo. I think Joe Burrow's calf is going to continue to get better and better, and they are just too talented to look like that every single week. I think the Ravens are also very, very injured, right? J.K.'s hurt. Marcus Williams is hurt. Marlon's hurt. They have a lot of guys. Mark Andrews might not play. They have a lot of guys that are really banged up right now. And last week, they didn't look great against the Texans. Obviously, they looked better than the Bengals did last week, but they didn't look great. I think the Bengals kind of returned to form here a little bit, and I think Joe Burrow and the offense is a little too much for the depleted Ravens team. I'm going to take the Bengals 27-20. Next, for the Lions and Seahawks, the home opener for the Lions, and it is a game that I am dreading. Seattle will be without both of their starting tackles, Abe Lucas and Charles Cross. Jamal Adams is not going to play on Sunday, and it's looking like maybe Boye Mafe won't play either. Not a great matchup for Seattle. A team in the Lions who I think is going to be able to run the ball super well. Seattle doesn't play good run defense, and last year they were getting smoked by the Rams. I think if Puka Nacua can smoke our DBs, I think Amon-Ra can as well. Now, the offense last week for the Seahawks was good in the first half. They actually were pretty damn good in the first half, and then in the second half, as a combination of just not being on the field, not being able to convert a third down, it was a mess. So, unfortunately, I don't know if the Seahawks win this one. I'm going to take it to the Lions. I'm going to give them 28-24. I think the Lions have too much firepower on offense, and I think their defense does enough to keep Seattle at bay. I do think this game is a little bit closer, maybe, but Seattle's too injured, and they were really bad last week, so I do not have faith that they can beat the Lions this week. Next, for the Colts and the Texans, to me, this one is going to be a pretty easy decision. I think the Colts are going to beat the Texans. That's just because I thought Anthony Richardson looked a lot better than C.J. Stroud did last week. Anthony Richardson, he got banged up at the end of the game, and I thought maybe, there would be an injury designation. Sounds like he's all good to go, which is awesome. The Colts, they made plays. They had the DeForest Buckner fumble 6. They had, obviously, Anthony Richardson. They had their running game is really not there, unfortunately. And I think DeMeco Ryans, being a defensive guy, he could take advantage of that. But you guys know I love me some Shane Steichen. I love what Shane Steichen has already done in Indy. They were, in the game with a really, really good Jaguars team. So I'm going to take the Colts to win this one, 21-14. I think the Texans just aren't as talented, and I think they're definitely a worse team than what the Jaguars were last week, and the Colts kind of went toe-to-toe with them for a while. Moving on to my next game, we got the Bears going to Tampa to play the Buccaneers. And the Buccaneers surprised a lot of people. They won last week. I have been on record this offseason saying I thought they would be one of the worst teams in the NFL. And, I'll be damned. Baker Mayfield looked pretty good. I give him a lot of shit. I talked a lot of crap on his name, but Baker Mayfield did not look bad as the Buccaneers quarterback. Now, it was against the Vikings defense, so let's, pump the brakes a little bit. But he's going up against the Bears defense, one of the few teams that probably have a worse defense than the Vikings do. So you're looking at that and you're saying, okay, well, how were the Bears last week? The Bears were awful in all facets of the game. They were disgusting. I don't know if you guys watch the QB School by J.T. O'Sullivan. He did a great breakdown of the Bears' offense, and oh my God, they look like shit. So I'm going to take the Buccaneers to win this game. I don't think Justin Fields can bail the Bears out of this one. I'm going to take the Bucs to win 24-17. I think Baker looks good, and I think the Buccaneers' defense keeps the Bears' offense at bay to get them a 7-point win. Next, we have what is, in my opinion, the game of the week. Jaguars, Chiefs, in Duval, home opener for the Jaguars. I think that building is going to be electric. Now, remember last year they played each other in the playoffs. Mahomes was a little hobbled, and he was still able to get the win. I think that maybe the roles reverse a little bit this week. I think the Jaguars win 31-28. It's a shootout. It is, blow for blow. It is going to be what, Mahomes Allen has been in years past. Travis Kelce is probably going to play, but I don't think he's going to be 100%. And Chris Jones, he might be a little bit rusty after not playing. I think the Jaguars' offense is clicking on all cylinders. Calvin Ridley, name me one Chiefs corner that can guard Calvin Ridley. You can't. I think that they're going to get the ground game going a little bit with Travis Etienne. I think the Jaguars' offense is going to do just enough. And also, let's not forget another mismatch in this game is I think the Jaguars' edge rushers, Trayvon Walker and Josh Allen, are really going to be a lot to handle for Donovan Smith and Juwan Taylor for the Chiefs. I like the Jaguars in this one. Again, it's hard to pick against Mahomes. It really is. But the Jaguars are one of the few teams I would do this for. They're at home. That helps as well. And I think the Jaguars take this one 31-28. My next game, we got the Packers heading down to Atlanta to play the Falcons. I'm going to go with the Packers on this one. I'm going to take the Packers 27-23. Now, Jordan Love looked good against the Bears. As I've mentioned, the Bears defense is not good, so I think I'll wait a week to assess him further against a real NFL defense in the Falcons. They're not great by any means, but they're all right. And the Falcons, the formula to win the game for the Falcons, the formula to win games all season for the Falcons is going to be how much do they run the football. I think Bijan is going to get more touches. I think Tyler Algier will be mixed in there as well. And I don't know if Desmond Ridder is able to take control of the game if the Falcons, need to do more. If the Falcons get in a situation where the other team's scoring some points, because Carolina wasn't really doing shit on offense last week, if the Packers are able to score some points, which I think Jordan Love is able to do, I don't know if Desmond Ridder can make enough throws to put the Falcons in position to win the game. I'm more hesitant on Desmond Ridder than I am on Jordan Love. That's why I'm taking the Packers 27-23. Next game, this is a game that should be a blowout, and if it's not, we have to seriously press the panic button. The Bills taking on the Raiders. I got the Bills winning 34-20. I think Josh Allen, people are kind of freaking out about Josh Allen right now, and don't get me wrong, my eyebrows raised a little bit after what he did last week, but the Jets have kind of had his number, and the Jets are one of the best defenses in the NFL with a really good defensive head coach. The Raiders are not. The Raiders don't have a good defense by any stretch of the imagination, and their coach is an offensive guy, and he's not even a good offensive guy. So, if the Bills don't look thoroughly dominant in this game, I think we have some problems in Buffalo, but I fully expect the Bills to walk in there, clap them, sack Jimmy G, and I think Josh Allen's going to throw for 1,000,000 yards, and I hope the Bills get a resounding win. If not, we got to start asking some real questions, but I think they get back on track in week 2, and they beat the Raiders handily. This is another game that I think is going to be very not close. Chargers going up against the Titans. I'm going to have the Chargers winning 31-20. Listen, Justin Herbert played good last week, and if the Chargers could have gotten a stop on the Dolphins' last drive, the conversation this week would be that Justin Herbert is a great quarterback, and he has no help on defense, but he still wins games. Unfortunately, they gave it up. Tua gets all the attention, deservingly so. He played a great game, but Justin Herbert was great last week. Don't let it fool you. He will be without Austin Eckler, and I do think that this is an interesting matchup in terms of just the contrasting play styles, right? Mike Vrabel's Titans are always, hard, gritty, tough teams. And the Chargers, I don't want to call them a soft team, but they're kind of more like an air-it-out team. Ryan Tannehill looked bad last week. He really looked bad, and I am not going to bet Ryan Tannehill to beat Justin Herbert. I'm just not going to do that. I think the Chargers win this game 31-20. He kind of gets pissed off. Justin Herbert does that. Tua walked in his building and beat him, and I think that the Chargers offense explodes for about 30. Titans maybe score 17-20, and I think this is a pretty handily. It's a pretty good win for the Chargers. Another game that I don't think is going to be particularly close, 49ers and the Rams. I had the 49ers winning this game 33-20. They looked awesome last week. Specifically, Brock Purdy and Brandon Ayuk. They seem to have a very, very good connection so far, which is awesome for my fantasy team because I have Brandon Ayuk. Anyway, their defense was suffocating. George Kittle, Deebo Samuel were making plays. Christian McCaffrey was making plays. Everything you could have wanted from a week 1 as a 49ers fan, you got, right? Everything. So there's really no reason for me to think that they won't replicate that against the Rams. The Rams, even though they just beat my Seahawks, I still don't think they're a great team. Maybe they've, floated into borderline wild card contention, but I still think the 49ers are a cut above. They're a cut above most teams, but they're especially a cut above the Rams. 33-20 seems fair to me. I don't think that they're going to get taken advantage of the same way that Seattle got taken advantage of last week, and I got the 49ers winning by, 2 scores. Next, we have the Giants going up against the Arizona Cardinals. I said this in my betting video. If the Giants don't handily beat the Cardinals, we got serious problems in New York. We got serious problems. I'm taking the Giants to win 28-10. They are a much better team than the Arizona Cardinals across the board. quarterback, and I mean, I'm not even a huge Daniel Jones guy. Clear advantage at quarterback, clear advantage on offense, clear advantage at defense, clear advantage at head coach. There is no reality. There is no Spider-Verse in which the Cardinals should win this game. If they do, holy shit. But I don't think that happens. I think the Giants win. It's not really common for me to predict a team to win by 3 scores. I'm going to do it here. 28-10, Giants win. They beat down Arizona. For my next game, this game would have been great had Aaron Rodgers not torn his Achilles. Cowboys taking on the Jets in Dallas. Yeah, man, it's Zach Wilson against the Cowboys defense. That's really all you need to know. I think the Cowboys win 27-18. I think the Jets defense tries their damnedest to keep this a close game, and the Jets run the ball partially to alleviate pressure off Zach Wilson and partially because they just want a good running game, right? They had it last week with Breece Hall. He ran for, I think he had 2 carries for 109 yards his first 2 times touching the ball. Awesome, right? Zach Wilson will probably sabotage this game, unfortunately, and I don't think that Jets are able to win against a really, really good Cowboys team. 27-18, I would be pretty surprised if Zach Wilson steps into Dallas and beats that Cowboys D. For our next game, this is another kind of boring game. I don't really care much about it. Broncos at Commanders. I'm going to take the Broncos 24-17. Now, they looked bad against the Raiders last week in the second half, but in the first half, they weren't bad. I don't know what happened in the second half. They just fell apart. But I don't think Commanders are a very good team. They didn't look great against Arizona of all teams last week. Not very encouraging at all. So I'm going to take the Broncos to win this game. I think that you have a clear advantage at head coach with Sean Payton. Quarterback, again, Sam Howell didn't look great last week, so but I'm going to take the Broncos. I'm going to take the Broncos to win. I think they get their season back on track a little bit. All right, and then for the primetime games, if not for Chiefs-Jags, this would be the game of the week, in my opinion. Dolphins, Patriots, Sunday Night Football. I'm taking the Dolphins to win 27-20. I think Tua continues his hot streak from last week. And although I don't think the Patriots win, I think they put up a really good fight. There's not a lot of teams that I think could handle the Dolphins' firepower on offense. But I think Bill Belichick is one of those guys that could still scheme his way out of pretty much everything, right? At the end of the day, though, I think the Dolphins are a little too talented. And I think that if Mike McDaniel is able to call good plays, he's able to call a good game, the Dolphins' offense, I think, will score. And they'll be able to score a little bit more than that Patriots' offense, who is nowhere near as talented on paper, right? Mac did look good last week against the Eagles, and the Patriots' defense was able to hold their own. Maybe because that was in the rain. I don't know. But, yeah, I think the Dolphins win this game 27-20. All right, and then we got 2 Monday Night Football games, which, by the way, I don't like the double Monday Night Football games, but whatever. We got 2 Monday Night Football games. The first one we're going to talk about is Saints-Panthers. I think the Saints win this one pretty handily. The Panthers didn't look good, really, at all last week. Bryce Young struggled in his debut through 2 picks on basically the same play to the same player. Didn't look great. The Saints, while they didn't really impress me either, they seem like a more competent team overall. The receivers looked good last week. Rashid Shaheed looked good. MT looked good, honestly, as well. And Derek Carr, he did miss some throws, but again, he's a fine quarterback, top 18, 19, 20, which is right now in this moment better than Bryce Young. Not for the future, obviously, though. But I think the Saints win this game 21-10. Panthers really have a hard time moving the ball against that well-coached Saints defense. And I think the Saints force a few turnovers like they did last week against Ryan Tannehill. And then for the last game of the week, another Monday night game, we got the Browns taking on the Steelers. I'm going to take the Browns to win this game 27-17. The Steelers' offense last week looked bad. And part of it was just because the 49ers' defense is so good. But part of it was just Kenny Pickett looked like shit. I mean, he was just forcing balls into tough spots. He was missing throws. He looked uncomfortable. He'll be without his starting receiver, Deontay Johnson, and they will be without their second-best defensive lineman, Cameron Hayward. Not a great week. The Browns looked like a bunch of dogs last week. I mean, holy shit, Jim Schwartz, call off the dogs at the end of the game. You know what I'm saying? Browns look good. I think Deshaun Watson, he'll be all right. I hate him, but he'll be all right. But Nick Chubb, I think, is going to run over the Steelers defense without Cameron Hayward. I'm taking the Browns to win 27-17. So those are my picks for week 2 of the NFL season. Let me know what you guys think down below, and I'll talk to you guys in Monday's video. Peace out.